Hey Scotty, did something materialize in the mail today? Oh my god, that's awesome! Let's unbox it!
Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today Scotty and I are back at it again and we're unboxing yet another one of the Doctor Who Commander precon deck. So yeah, today it's gonna be a fun one. Thank you very much Scotty for the wonderful introduction. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. Today we're analyzing the teamer deck called Paradox Power. We've gone through the first one already, and that one, the timey-wimey deck, was very interesting. It had a lot of potential, but it didn't jazz as a precon deck. Today, this one is going to be, a different one. I think that the whole gist of this deck is that you have to cast spells from outside of your hand. Let's have a quick look at the 13th Doctor. But before we do, if you're new here, then first off, welcome. But secondly, these are very in-depth reviews of the precon as a whole. We look at every card, we read out every card, and we give you an idea of how good it is with the synergy with the commander that is given. And overall, in the end, we score it out of 10 to make sure that you can then purchase or inform yourself better about which commander decks jazz the best or just have the best power and which ones are lacking where. Also, you can use this as a guide of what cards you could remove out of the deck if you're looking to upgrade it. So without further ado, let's have a look at the 13th Doctor. So the 13th Doctor is a 2/2 Time Lord Doctor that costs only 3 and it is Simic. Extra color, which here is red, is going to come from the companion. So the companion is sitting in the command zone just like the commander proper, and that enables us to use 3 colors. That's teamer. So let's have a look at the abilities. It has 2 abilities just like the previous Doctor, and this one, the first one, is Paradox. So whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Now this is very nice. I can already think about the Agatha's Soul Cauldron that's been released in the Wilds of Eldraine that would really like this. And then Team TARDIS. At the beginning of your end step, untap each creature you control with a counter on it. So this is a generative counter deck that is going to depend on how you play, whether it's graveyard play or cascading or whatever the ways that you bring in the extra cards into play. They have to be cast. So funny enough, even suspend would work. But yeah, that's the gist of it. So you'll want, it really depends on how they take this route and what cards are in here. I think this deck and the previous deck are the ones with the coolest ideas on how to build a deck. So without further ado, let's look at what's inside of the box first. You get the 100 card deck, and of course out of these, 50 cards are new, and all the cards in here are themed, even the reprints, with the Doctor Who art, which is really wonderful. And getting 50 new cards is amazing. We haven't had this many cards since, I think, the Warhammer 40k decks. Then we get 10 new Planechase cards, 10 double-sided tokens, a planar die because Planechase is back, of course, and then you get the foil edge thick commander, a life wheel, a deck box, a strategy insert, a reference card, and also it doesn't really say it here anywhere, but it does say it here. So this is where I missed it yesterday, that you actually get a collector sample pack, and that is something that is easily missed because, to be fair, I don't really look at this top part most of the times. When I'm reading through, I'm just looking at whether the colors are here, and I just thought this was gonna be a little bit of fluff. So it'd be great if they started putting a big, hey, you get a collector booster sample here. Anyway, it doesn't matter, let's break into it. And yeah, last one took a little bit getting back into the groove. As I said, I'm trying to get through unboxing all 4 of them, and usually we do give you an upgrade guide to the decks. Unfortunately, due to me being ill with COVID, I was sick for 2 weeks, and that skewed our schedule. And of course, I will also be on holiday soon. Yay! And after that, I won't be able to release properly these videos as we usually do, but we'll try and get to them, I promise, especially if there's a lot of requests to see how we would upgrade them, because we usually do an upgrade guide for them that's very different from any other channel. We actually give you the full power upgrade. Like we don't hold back on the best way that you can upgrade it. But if you do want it, if you clamor for it in the comments down below, then we will strive to get it to you. Just please be patient with us. Anyway, in the meantime, I'm taking apart all the stuff that's supposed to be inside. Okay, so you get this wonderful little cardboard cutout, and they're themed with Doctor Who. So these are can be time counters, can be different things. Some of them are cool, and if you want to keep them, great. If not, help. Then we get the pin down life counter, and then you get the insert, which tells you a bit about the deck and about the characters within. Then you get the PLANECHASE die, which is, I think, in similar color as the one that we saw yesterday. Then you get the deck box, which is pretty nice if you just want to hold your deck unsleeved. But if you're gonna sleeve your deck, then this is gonna become useless really quickly. That's what it looks like. That's interesting. It looks like it's within a factory, right? And then you get the PLANECHASE cards. That's it. And then you get the collector's booster sample and the deck proper with the token and the thick commander at the back. So before we start, I will preamble that I am in no way a huge fan of Doctor Who. I know some parts or some things of Doctor Who, but I have seen barely a few episodes, and I just know the gist of the show. So I apologize if I say something that's pretty obvious for you guys, or if I say something wrong about the show. So let's start with the collector booster sample pack, which is always a fun thing. Anyway, in here you'll find two alternate art cards, basically. One is going to be foil, one is not going to be foil, and then also the token. So let's go with the first one. We have Kate Stewart, which we saw yesterday in the Time You Want Me deck, and Kraken Time, which we saw yesterday in the Time You Want Me deck. This is foil, and also there's like glitter from the foiling falling apart. Okay, cool. Then let's dive into the PLANECHASE cards. And I wonder how your weather has been over there, wherever you are in the world. We have a lot of fans from all over the world, actually, and that is amazing. I can't stress that enough, how amazing that is. And at the moment here in very not sunny Scotland, it's autumn in full swing, and it's as cold as winter gets. It's just really rainy and disgusting. So, all right, let's continue on. Let's look at the PLANECHASE cards. Now, this one is the Doctor's Childhood Barn from the plane of Gallifrey. That's really nice. So this is a creatures enters the battlefield tapped, and whenever chaos ensues for each opponent, choose up to one target non-land permanent that opponent controls. Untap those permanents. They phase out. They can phase in for as long as this card remains phase up, and when a player's plane walks, those permanent phase in. Not bad if you don't play a lot of creatures. That's pretty good, actually. Storing Cage Containment Facility from the Plane Unknown planet, and each creature card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus XL3 other cards from the graveyard. So again, very much in theme with our 13th Doctor. And then whenever chaos ensues, you detain target creature an opponent controls, meaning that until the next turn, that creature can't attack, block, or its activated abilities can't be activated. Then we get the Drum Mining Facility. And the Drum Mining Facility is coming from Earth, and whenever you roll a planet die, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste until the end of turn. Okay? And whenever chaos ensues, end the turn. Next, we have the Singing Towers of Darillium from the Plane Darillium. Beautiful image. Each non-land card in your hand without foretell has foretell. Of course, another way to play cards outside of your hand. Foretell cost is equal to its mana cost reduced by 2. And whenever chaos ensues, you may cast a foretell card you own from exile without paying its mana cost. Decent. Fixed point in time. This is a phenomenon. Whenever you encounter fixed point in time until your next turn, if a player would planeswalk as a result of rolling a planar die, chaos ensues instead. Okay, cool. Then we get Besieged Viking Village. This is plain Earth. All creatures have Boast 1 generic, so put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and then whenever chaos ensues, you put an indestructible counter on target creature you control that attack this turn. Then we have North Pole Research Base. I love that. It's so cool. Is there an episode where you get to meet Santa, I guess? It's a research base with Santa at the back. Okay, from the plane Earth at the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent draws a card and creates a treasure token. Whenever chaos ensues, create a 2/2 white alien creature token. When you do, tap target non-token creature an opponent controls, put a stun counter on it. Okay. Then we get the Temple of Atropos, playing Time. Okay, from Time. And at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, there is an additional beginning phase after this phase. Wow. Okay. Chaos ensues. I reverse the game's turn order. Then planeswalk. Wow, that's crazy. That's a really cool, fun little one to play with. Then we get Kerblam Warehouse. This is from the plane of Kandoka. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you get to create a treasure token. And whenever chaos ensues until your next turn, non-creature artifacts you control gain tap, sacrifice this artifact, flip a coin. If you win the flip, this artifact deals 3 damage to any target, effectively making those treasure tokens into little bombs. And then we get the dining card from the plane spacecraft. When you planeswalk to the dining card, each player creates a food token, and then 66 seconds at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature with the least toughness among creatures you control, then investigate. Whenever chaos ensues, activated abilities of artifact tokens you control cost 2 generic class to activate this turn. Okay, those are fun. There is quite a bit of synergy with the deck itself proper, as usual, and yeah, there are some really wacky ones. I'm not a huge fan of PLANECHASE. Some of the decks that I play just don't mix well with them because they're very creature centered and oriented, and I just don't play that many creatures in some decks. But and other than that, yeah, it could be really fun. And as usual, the art and the flavor in these are wonderful. So let's have a look really quickly at the little insert that you get here. There you go. We get Paradox Power, how to play the deck, and the commander rules, and the PLANECHASE rules. You can pause it anytime you like. And then we flip it around and we see the 13th Doctor and our, well, general, but it's really a companion in this deck, Yasmin Khan. And then you get a little bit of a blurb about the magic colors and how they pair them with the different aspects of you know, somebody's character and all that stuff. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive into the deck proper. We'll open it up. I will say that these ones are much easier to open than the usual ones. Usually you have to go and hunt for the little pull-out tab, and sometimes annoying. I think it's just a factory issue. I'll remove the back here for now. Makes it easier. All right, so the 13th Doctor we've looked at. Let's have a look at it from an analytical standpoint, right? So basically, if you want to put +1/+1 counters on creatures, there are a ton of synergies, especially with the scholars, to do so, to pump up creatures. So what you want is to have creatures that can benefit from those +1/+1s, and also creatures and cards that, of course, are played from outside of your hand, which in all fairness to Magic the Gathering, there are quite a lot, and I think that's the most fun aspect of this deck. Now, however they go out to build it, that's gonna be the interesting part. It's not a lot of buffing. The +1/+1 is just on one creature, so you have to cast a lot of spells. It will be much stronger if it was for all creatures you control, but that's a fair balance. Maybe up to 3 or 4 creatures would have been better. And at the beginning of your hand step, untap each creature you control with a counter on it. That's really good, effectively giving vigilance to any and all creatures, allowing you to attack with them. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's a strange mix between creatures buffing and at the same time playing outside of your hand. Now, whenever you play outside of your hand, most of the time your opponents will figure out what's happening. So that's always the tricky part. Same thing with the timey-wimey deck. So we'll see how they go about doing that. Now let's see the companion or the commander, Yasmin Khan. This is a 3/3 red creature that costs 4, human detective. You tap, exile the top card of your library until your next end step, you may play it, and then you get Doctor's Companion. That's another way to do it. In red, there's a lot of that, and yeah, it's good. It's not as strong, I think, as, I don't remember the companion for the previous deck, but it's not as strong as that one. That one has a lot more energy. This one is okay, I will say that. It's okay. It enables the ability of doing the cool thing, but that's about it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. A bit of a letdown in that regard. Next up, let's have a look. We have the thickness here. Then we have some tokens. So the first one is a human reward 2. That's a 1/1. Then we get a fish. It's a very interesting fish. A clue, love that. Food, oh my god, I could eat that for sure. A treasure, oh that's nice. Key, oh we get the aliens, they're back, of course. Then we get an alien warrior, oh wow, that's interesting. Then we get a copy, beautiful. Another alien warrior. Then on your turn and learn how to play magic. These are the helper cards. And then in the back we get treasure, and then Osgit, Operation Double, is a 2/2 token creature, human alien shapeshifter, or the card that creates this is gonna be long. Tap to add 1 generic, spend this mana only to cast an artifact, spell, or activate an ability of an artifact, and it has a paradox, so whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you get to investigate. Okay, this token's mana cost is 4. Okay, this is the first time that I see a token like this. That is very peculiar. Then we get another food, an alien rhino 4/4. and it's in a candy shop. No, it's in a cafe. That's okay. Interesting. Another copy, an alien warrior, another copy, another beautiful copy, a beast. Wow. I mean, this is one of the most classic tokens in the world, and then a fish. Okay. Okie dokie. Let's dive into the deck proper. So let's have a look first. First card that's appearing here, it is Psychic Paper. So we've seen this before. It allows you to change the name and type of a card, creature card, and it becomes that name and type, and then it has ward 1 and becomes unblockable. Here I don't know that it is as good, except for the fact that you can pump that creature a lot, maybe. So the unblockable part is good, but it is a fairly expensive equipment. So expensive as in like it's not really low to the ground. You have to spend 4 to do that, but it's not too expensive, so it's okay. Let's see next. TARDIS. Of course, this is a PLANECHASE card. I do not advise you to play PLANECHASE card when trying to make the best deck, but when you're having fun, that's great. So for this card I would remove, and yeah, it's okay to crew for 2. It's not a big bad card, but it's not great. That's a vehicle. Then we get the Sonic Screwdriver, and this is wonderful because it changes the art of the commander, and here the Sonic Screwdriver for the timey-wimey was completely different, and here you have a card that does everything. I really love the Sonic Screwdriver. It costs 3, sorry. I wish it costed 2. It would be broken though, but it is very good because it allows you to do so many things. It's a mana rock. It makes a creature unblockable. You scry 1 or untap another artifact. Like this is, I think this is maybe a non-CDH or very strong, like super powerful decks, but in general this could be a great addition to most decks that require something and have an extra slot. Then we get Start the TARDIS. This is the first new card that we've seen, and of course these are all new cards, but a new one that we have seen. Start the TARDIS is a sorcery. It costs 2, it's blue, it has Surveil 2, then draw a card and you may planeswalk. Okay, so it's a planeswalk interaction. To Surveil 2, you take those 2 cards, you can put any of them in any order on top of the library or into the graveyard. So again, if you have escape costs or flashback or graveyard interaction, then this is extremely good. And then you have Jumpstart. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other cost, then exile this card. So this is very synergistic. The second part enables more, so this is a very good sorcery. I really like it. Now we get Surge of Brilliance. It's an instant. It costs 2, it's blue, it's Paradox. Draw a card for each spell you've cast this turn from anywhere other than your hand. So it's kind of like a storm-ish idea, and then you get to foretell this. That's really nice. And drawing the cards for like 2-3 spells, that's effectively it's possible. These 2 spells don't cost that much, so that's really good. I really like this draw, and it really synergizes with the deck. Then we have Araxa, Empress of Mars, 5/4 alien warrior that costs 4 with 2 red pips. It has Trample and Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until the end of turn, effectively buff creatures. And it's a 5/4 Trampler with 4, so that's already really good. This makes it even better. Paradox, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you get to create those alien warrior creature tokens. So very good, very synergistic with the deck. I love that. Of course, it's not like groundbreaking good, but it is very good in the synergy of the deck. Remember, when I'm reviewing this, it's all about the synergy with the commander and the general and overall the deck. Oh, this looked like an alien little alien from Alien head. That's really messed up. This is a memory worm, disgusting. It's a 1/1 that costs 2 and it is red, and it has Paradox. When you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, this card deals 2 damage to target player. That player discards a card, then draws a card. You put a +1/+1 counter on him. Kind of a double-edged sword. Up until here, I was really happy with it. The discards a card is extremely strong, but then you get to draw a card, and that effectively only works if they have a really good hand. If you know anything about general Magic the Gathering games, you don't have all the time a very good hand. So allowing them to rummage, which is exactly what this is doing, it's not that great. It's giving them an advantage. It is a good card, and it synergizes with the deck. It is more +1/+1 counters, so that's fine, but there might be better additions, but it's synergized. Next, we have the Decaying Time Loop. It costs 4, it's red, it's an instant. Discard all all the cards in hand, then draw that many cards, and then retrace. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other cost. That's very nice. You get to replenish your own hand, and you get to synergize with the deck. It's an instant speed as well. I like this a lot. Then we get Thejarian Witness. It is a 0/4 alien cleric and the cost 2. It is green, has flash. That's always great. Whenever another creature dies, so any creature, not just your creatures, if it was attacking or blocking alone, exile it and investigate. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know that this has any synergy with anything. Probably is flavorful for some of the episodes of the 13th Doctor, but this is not a card that I would keep necessarily, as it doesn't really synergize with much. Even if you do have ways to clue and, you know, sack an artifact, draw a card, there are better ways to draw green. Civil Library, for example, is the best one. Truth or Consequences is a sorcery that costs 4. It is it, and Secret Council. Each player secretly votes for truth or consequences. When these votes are revealed, you draw cards equal to the number of truth votes and then choose an opponent at random. Truth or consequences deal 3 damage to that player for each consequence vote. Now, this is the kind of voting force politics that I like because it advantages you no matter what, and it disadvantages any one of your opponents no matter what. I guess there's more reliable ways to draw and more reliable ways to do damage, especially in Is It. It's cute, and I would trade it in whenever you find a better upgrade. Then we have Bigger Inside. Of course, this is what the TARDIS is. Inside is much, much bigger. And it costs 5. It is an enchantment aura, and it is Gruel, and it enchants an artifact or land. So that's very interesting. Enchantment permanent has a tap to target player adds 2 mana of any color. Any target player. That's interesting. The next spell they cast this turn has Cascade. Okay, I love this, but I wish it wasn't so expensive. This is insanely expensive. Yes, it does have the ability to enable some spells to have Cascade, and then, you know, you get to play cards from top. And if you have some big ones, so far we've only seen a couple. There's like 5 costs or 4 costs. Then this is great, but I don't know. It's very expensive. If it was a 3 cost, this would be a much better card. For 5, I don't know. It's an okay card, but I would swap it out as soon as you find something better. And then we have Wreck and Rebuild. It's another rule that costs 3. It's a sorcery. Choose 1. Destroy target artifact enchantment. Always good. Mill 5 cards, then you may put a land card from your graveyard onto the battlefield tab, and you can flashback it. So this is actually pretty decent in this deck. Again, you're enabling hopefully more flashback and graveyard escape, or anyway, graveyard plays by milling, hopefully. And again, though, if you're doing this, you will want to not have too many cards that are non-synergistic with the graveyard. So this is the problem, right? So it depends on how you play it, and if you do happen to mill cards into your graveyard by accident that shouldn't be there, you need to have ways to bring it back. So it's always about building the right kind of balance between these two things and how you build your playing from outside of your hand. First part is an extra bonus. This is realistically good enabler, and you can flashback it, so it again does the 13th Doctor. Again, the problem with the 13th Doctor is, though, once you do the ability of flashbacking, it just puts up +1/+1, so it's not gonna upgrade your whole entire party or every creature in play significantly. So yeah, it's we'll see how it goes. Next up, we get the Arcane Signet, and it's a classic. I love it, and it's always good to have a mana rock, just like the Soul Ring. Next up, we get Ponder. We have a sorcery that's a classic. It's a 1 blue. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, then you may put that back in any order. You may shuffle and draw a card. So basically, it's a great way to filter through the top, and maybe if you have something like the Wreck and Rebuild, you don't put cards that absolutely are necessary and you don't want in your graveyard in the graveyard, and allows you to do that. Definitely interesting card, and I like it in blue decks in general. Think Twice. It costs 2, and it is a blue instant draw card, and you can flashback it. Okay, simple enough, decent. It's okay. It's okay. There are better ways to draw, but again, we're trying to enable that play from the graveyard, so flashback is great here. Then we get Preordain, great one. This allows you to scry through, then draw a card, and it's another classic. I love it, and I love the art as well. Then we get Throes of Chaos. That's beautiful. Those are some planets, nebulae behind. That's great art. And then we get so it's a sorcery, costs 4, it's red. and you have Cascade. Then you get Retrace. You may cast this card again from graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. Amazing, very, very, very good for the synergy of the commander. Again, it's a bit expensive though. These cards, you know, the Cascade cost, and the Retrace cost, the Flashback cost, and the Escape cost can be expensive. So I'm seeing that maybe you might want to have a decent enough, not super ramp, like you don't need a timey-wimey ramp, like realistically you don't need 7 ASAP mana, but it's good to have enough to be able to cast as many as you can in one turn, because again, it's only 1+1/+1 counter that's happening in game. So I think realistically, yeah, you might want to have a decent enough ramp for that. Then we get Cultivate. Search your library for up to 2 basic lands, reveal those cards. You put one in battlefield tapped and the other one into your hand. A wonderful little card. Of course, when you put cards into play here, it does not mean that you've cast. So plus you can't really cast lands. So this does not trigger the 13th Doctor's ability. Search for Tomorrow is a sorcery, cost 3, it is green. Search for a library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield, then shuffle. You can suspend it, and that's where that part plays in. I like it, and it's not a bad card. It allows you to ramp. Again, as I said, with the fact that most of these cards can be expensive, the alternate cost, you might want to ramp, and these are good. So it's got good ramp, it's got good card draw so far, and they all synergize here. Next up, we have Danny Ping. That's a 4/3 legendary creature, human soldier advisor that costs 4 and it's blue and has mentor. Whenever this creature attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on target attack creature lesser power, and creatures you control have whenever one or more counters are put on this creatures for the first time each turn you draw a card. Now this is a great synergy, and actually funny enough, I think I would like better that this was more of a companion than Yasmin Khan, but I understand that's how they went. And also so far I haven't seen a lot of great creatures. There's only been like 2, so yeah, I was hoping to start seeing some more creatures. Ooh, Osgood Operation Double. Okay, so this is the card token that we saw earlier. It's a 2/2 human alien shapeshifter, costs 4 with 2 blue pips. When you cast a spell, create a token that's a copy of it. It said that it is in legendary, and you tap to add 1 generic and spend this mana only to cast an artifact spell or activate an ability of an artifact. So that's good. You do have so far quite a bit of artifacts. And then paradox it, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you get to investigate. So that's great because you can use it for the clue ability as well, but I'd rather use it for the artifact slot. So this is not bad, it's more of the paradox, but again, it's not buffing my creatures up. This is sorely needed. So far, not so great. I mean, I get that you can do more things, but again, if it's like timey-wimey, you tend to want to do all the things, but you do none of them well. Jack of all trades, king of none really fits most precon decks, and I know that they give you a very ample way of building your deck, a little bit of tools here and there, but I wish it didn't go so wide sometimes. So I'm just gonna put it, yeah, okay, it synergizes, it's an okay card, but it's not synergistic to the part that it's a creature deck, okay? It's more an artifact. Let's see here. Twice Upon a Time, beautiful art, by the way. And it costs 6, and it's blue with 2 blue pips, and it's a sorcery, and it's an adventure. So on the first side, you actually have another sorcery adventure called Unlikely Meeting that costs 3 with 1 blue pip. And search your library for a Doctor card, reveal it, put it in your hand and shuffle. Great, another way to get your Doctor cards, just like in the previous deck. And then you cast this spell on the other side. You cast this spell only if you control 2 or more Doctors, and take an extra turn after this one, exile Twice Upon a Time. Now this I actually like. I like this better than the Regenerations Restored or whatever it was, because this is an easier way to get it out. Overall, it costs 9, but it's not bad to get it going, and if you have enough ramp, you can definitely do this quickly enough. You don't even have to, like if you have both Doctors in play, you spend 6 to get an extra turn. Look, if you want to get extra turns, then maybe this is the cool thing. I usually don't play like that, but to each their own. It's an okay card, and it does not really synergize. Well, it synergizes with the fact that you need an extra Doctor, but that's about it. Then you get Become the Pilot. This costs 5, and it's blue with 2 blue pips. Instant enchantment aura. Enchant non-commander creature. You control enchanted creature. Okay, so this is bribery, kind of. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and can be blocked unless it's attacking its owner or permanent its owner controls. Okay, that's nice. That's really cool. Basically, you can't, if you use it against the owner of the creature. It's not a big deal. It will be blockable. It's a normal creature. It does get +2/+2, so that's great. But if you're attacking any of the other opponents, then it's really, really annoying. I really love this. This is a great enchantment aura. I think this could be a staple, actually. This is a really, really good card, I think. Next up, we have Quantum Misalignment. This is a 5-cost blue with 1 pip. Sorcery, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except that it isn't legendary, and you get to rebound. Great. I mean, it's wonderful. By the way, rebounding, if you cast a spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves in the beginning of your next upkeep. You may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. Therefore, effectively, you can do it twice. It's good. It's always good to make copies. It's a good card. It's just that in the synergy of this deck, I was hoping to go more creature side. Otherwise, why would you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature? Like, do something else. Draw cards. Do something different. Or add mana. At the moment, it just doesn't seem that coherent. It's a good card, but it seems less coherent than you would think. Then we get Nardo, Resourceful Cyborg. It's a 1/2 scientist that costs 2 and it's blue. So you tap to add 1 blue for each counter on Nardo. Spend this mana only to cast non-creature spells. That's great because, well, counters are added by the 13th Doctor. So that's great. And it has Undying, so whenever it dies, it comes back with a +1/+1 counter on it if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, and it is a Doctor's Companion. So, yeah. I actually like it. It's not strong. Let's just say, like, it's great. And again, casting non-creature spell can become strong out of hand really quickly. The problem is I have not seen a lot of other ways to put +1/+1 counters on it. So if you're shuffling into here and you're just using it to tap out and do more spells, well, how are you gonna kill your opponent? Like, you need ways to deal damage to your opponent. So you have ways to copy more creatures. You have ways to get more turns. You have ways to draw cards. But what's my out? You know? So it's good, definitely good, but I need more now. Give me more, come on. Flatline is an instant that costs 3 and it's blue. Creatures your opponents control have a base power toughness of 0/1 until the end of turn. It's one of those cards. It's a bit expensive for what it does. It transforms everything into the 0/1. I guess it's thematic. Okay, there are better, and I'd rather just have a board wipe in this slot. Anyway, then we get Bill Potts, and this is a 2/4 human legendary creature. It costs 4. It's red. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell that targets only Bill Potts, or activate an ability that targets only Bill Potts, copy that spell or ability. You may choose a new target to the copy. The ability triggers only once each turn. So this is what I was hoping for until the last one. This is so annoying. I was hoping, like, hey, okay, I can target with a Doctor, and it's a Doctor's Companion, so I could swap it in instead on getting Yasmin Khan, and that's great. Or just in general, it's just overall great buffer. And then you're like, oh, but it only triggers only one sister. Great. That's so annoying. It's a good card, but again, man, why limited it? Into the Time Vortex. This is costs 5. It's a red card. Sorcery. It has Cascade, of course, and it has Rebound. So again, more ways to trigger that. Finally, some synergy. Again, there's not much to do with the things that you do. Like, where's my, it's kind of like Croxa. You need a level event of Croxa to be able to justify. You need a lot of creatures like that when you escape them, when you play them, when you buff them, they become insane. And I'm not expecting you to only give me those, but come on, where's the payout? So, good card, but again, I'm waiting for that payout. Dan Lewis is a 2/2 legendary human creature that costs 2. It's red. Non-creature, non-equipment artifacts you control, so any old artifacts. In addition to their other types, they become equipments and have a quick creature gets +1/+0, and you can equip it for 1, and it's a Doctor's Companion. It's okay. Again, another strange way to buff your creatures and effectively making all, like, treasure tokens as well and all that. A +1/+0 sword, but okay. And next up, the Flaming Tyrannosaurus. This is something that we saw yesterday. Great. Finally, something to actually play with those cascades. Let's see. It's a 5/5 that costs 7. It has 2 red pips. It has Menace, which is great. It has Paradox. When you recast a spell from anywhere other in your hand, you get to deal 3 damage to any target, then put a +1/+1 counter on Flamesaurus. A wonderful card. This is right for this deck. And then whenever it dies, it deals damage damage equals to its power to each opponent, and again you can buff it with the 13th Doctor, making it bigger. Now of course you have to cascade it in to trigger the 13th Doctor, or you have to have some ramp. At the moment there's not much ramp. I think we have like 3 ways to ramp. Granted, for this card, right, there are ways to ramp artifacts, but it's not an artifact or other spell. Like, no, it's very good. Don't get me wrong, it's just like, okay, but this is only one, and deck doesn't help me play it as easily in synergy of the 13th Doctor. So Ryan Sinclair, this is a 2/2 legendary human creature that costs 3. It is red. Whenever it attacks, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost if it's a spell with mana value less than or equal to Ryan's power. Finally, some freaking synergy. Put the exile cards non-cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's a Doctor Companion. This is insanely good, and I think I would rather play him as my companion than Yasmin Khan. Again, mainly because this can grow, and it does 2 things. Like, the more you grow this, the more you can just free cast your spells, and the ability to free cast spells from the top of your library is much better than the ability for me to just be able to play it. So this is just this, but with an upgrade plus less expensive. So this actually is the best Doctor's Companion, and it still keeps the color. So overall, as a creature, it's an absolute must. We have Return to the Past. It costs 6 with 2 red pips. It's an enchantment. For as long as it's your turn, each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. Its flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. Freaking amazing. Absolutely a must. Again, you need to have mana to pump this, and I hope that we can get some ramp, but absolutely freaking great, and this is something that is a must with the Commander. Next, we have Impending Flux. It's cost 3. It's a sorcery. It has Paradox. Impending Flux deals X damage to each opponent and each creature they control, where X is 1 plus the number of spells you've cast from anywhere other than your hand. So that's really good because it's to each opponent and each creature they control. That's insanely strong. It could be a board wipe. There are better board wipes, but it could be just overall very good because you also deal damage to opponents, and you can foretell it, and then you can kind of play it out. You know, just foretell it, you keep it there up until the moment that you most need it, that you know it's going to give you the most bang for your buck. So this is actually pretty good. Then we get the Flux. So we had the Impending Flux, now we get the Flux. And it costs 4 with 2 red pips. It's an enchantment saga, and it has wow, that's 6. Wow, 6 steps. So in the first step, you have the Flux deals 4 damage to target creature an opponent controls, right? So that's good. It's a burn. 4 for 4 is always great. Then for the next 4 steps, you exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Very good synergy with the Doctor. And then for your last step, on 6, you add 6 red mana. So that's your ramp. Very slow because you have to wait 6 turns to do that, but it could be a great payout to do, I don't know, Return from the Past or the Flaming Tyrannosaurus. So yeah, decent, and it's very synergistic. I like it. It's a good little overall saga in general. Just overall is very good for this kind of deck. Then we get the Sister of Karn. This is a 0/0 cleric. It is green and it costs 2. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay, and then with Paradox, when you recast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you double the number of counters on the Sisterhood of Karn. Finally, next you have Graham O'Brien as a 2/2 human pilot. It costs 2. It's a legendary creature. Has Paradox. When you recast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you create a food token. Why? Okay, and then you get Doctor's Companion. I mean, it's another one of those. Like, yay, great flavor, but why? Like, make him a bit more interesting. Anyway, Carvanista Loyal Lupari is a 5/5 alien dog soldier that costs 5, and it's green, and it's also an adventurer. So on the adventure side, you have the Lupari Shield. It costs 2. It's green as well, and it's a sorcery. Humans you control gain indestructible until your next turn. Okay, so you have quite a lot of humans here, especially in the companions. And then on the creature side, has Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. Wonderful. I want to see more of that. And whenever it attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on each human you control. Yeah, that is great. On each human you control, that is really good. Yeah, that's just wonderful. I like this card a lot. Then we have the Foretold Soldier, a 6/6 that costs 4 alien zombie soldier, and it must be blocked if able. That's annoying. And of course, you can grow it with a 13th Doctor. Then it can't be blocked by more than one creature. Very annoying. And then whenever the Foretold Soldier deals damage, exile it face down, it becomes Foretold. Okay, so that's the pay in, like that's the trade in. You're gonna attack, it's gonna be blocked by a 1/1, and then it gets Forto. You get to trigger the 13th Doctor again, but it loses all the counters that you put on it. It's a tricky one. It's really flavorful. I think there's a great episode about it probably, since like a silent assassin that only you can see because apparently nobody can see him in the room, but don't know about that. I really want to like the card and I think it's really good. The problem is the fact that whenever it deals damage, you exile it face down and it becomes Portal and you have to play, and you always have to spend 2 to flip it around every turn. So you always have like a turn cooldown, right? You attack with 1 turn, then you have to flip it around the next turn and wait, or you foretell it on your opponent's turn. So I think it's good. I think it's definitely good, and it has this continuous foretell, so it could synergize with Commander. So I'll give it a good rating for this one. Fugitive of the Dune, it costs 5 and it's an enchantment saga, and you create a 1/1 white human creature token with ward 2 and a 4/4 white alien rhino creature token. So that's the one that we saw earlier. Tokens, then you get to investigate. Then you may exile a human you control and an artifact you control. If you do, you search your library for a Doctor card, put it onto battlefield, then shuffle. I mean, it fetches you some Doctor, so that's always good. So far, we've only seen the 13th Doctor. There is going to be another Doctor here because there's a 12th Doctor as well in this deck, and there are some probably other smaller Doctors, the non-named Doctors that they have in here. But it's fairly expensive for what it does. Yes, you have the power, so you spend 5 to have a 5 power with the ward 2 basically on the smallest one. You get to investigate, and then you get to fetch the Doctor. Great, but you know, does it synergize with the Commander? Not really. It's okay. There are better. Okay, next we get River Song, a 2/2 human Time Lord rogue that costs 3, and is it meet in reverse. You draw cards from the bottom of your library rather than the top. Now that is really freaking cool. There are some cards in Magic Gathering that actually, if you draw them from the bottom of the library or something like that, you win the game. So this is insanely good for that, but it's really fun. Then we get spoilers. Whenever an opponent scries, surveils, or searches the library, you put a +1/+1 counter on River Song, then River Song deals damage to that player equal to its power. Now this, I like this, even though it doesn't synergize necessarily with the 13th Doctor, despite the fact that you've cascaded and you've done so many things that you've put stuff at the bottom. So maybe that's great. Like, oh shit, I had to put something at the bottom that I really want to play. With this, you can get around that. But what I like, this is a deterrent against your opponents, because yeah, okay, you can scry, surveil, or search a library, which can happen very often. It would have been extremely strong if it was for whenever it draws, even if it draws other than the first card that it draws in each turn. Yeah, it's a deterrent, and it's just a burn spell on top of that. I like that. And yeah, no, it doesn't synergize with the Commander, so I'll put it on this pile, but I like that. Madame Vastra, 3/3 lizard detective legendary creature, costs 4, and it's Simic, partner with Jenny Flint. So whenever you play this and it comes into the battlefield, you can search your library for Jenny Flint and keep it in your hand. Then Madame Vastra must be blocked if able. So this is another target of the +1/+1. And whenever a creature does damage by Madame Vastra dies this turn, you get to create a clue or food token. Again, you can't do anything with those tokens here. There's no way to continuously sacrifice tokens to synergize with something. So it's kind of like, man, why not whenever it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on stuff? So annoying. No, I won't put it as a synergy. It's just not. Oh, then you get Jenny Flynn. Oh, that's cool. This is really nice. You actually get the front and the back from the same artist, from Sid Mills. And yeah, it's basically the front and the back. That is really freaking cool. That is the first time I've seen something like that. That's really nice. So this is a human detective. It costs 3, and it's Is-It, and it's a 2/2. It partners with Madame Vastra. It has first strike, so that's already better. And then it has training, very good with a +1/+1 counters. And whenever you sacrifice a clue or fruit token, you put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. So this is what I was saying. Together, they synergize. And now these make sense here, right? But only if you have this card in play, which means that you have to fetch for it, which makes these obsolete because this is not your commander, right? So in a way, this synergizes and this one doesn't. When you play this, you can fetch that, then it allows you to synergize more, but it's still just like that, unfortunately. Next up, we get Strax, Sontaran Nurse. It's an alien cleric, a 5/5 that is Gruul, that costs 5, a vigilance and trample, very good. Grenades, Grenades, that's the ability. Okay, cool. 2 generic and tap, sacrifice an artifact. So now we get an idea of, yeah, more of those artifacts. But again, it's not synergizing with that. Sacrifice an artifact, choose a player at random. When you do, sacrifice another target creature that player controls. Okay, choose a player at random. It can be you as well. It's just choose a player at random, so you have to choose any of the players. It's not choose another player random, and it could just be fighting one of your creatures, so that's not great. And then Glory of Battle, whenever Strax deals damage to a creature, you put a +1/+1 counter on Strax. Now the second part, I keep it. You know, I would keep it. It's a good one for this ability and for Vigilance and Trample, and then you can buff it. For the rest, it's a very big gamble. Ooh, the 12th Doctor, finally. He is literally on a freaking tank playing music on a guitar. That's freaking cool. Now, this is a 4/4 Time Lord Doctor that costs 5, and it isn't. And the first spell you cast from anywhere other than your hand each turn has Demonstrate, which means when you cast that spell, you may copy it. If you do, you choose an opponent that can also copy it, and copy of a permanent spell becomes a token. So that's not bad. It's only the first spell, so you cast, I don't know, Strax, you can choose to copy it, and so can an opponent do that as well. And this is kind of annoying because you're giving advantages to your opponent. It's great because you can definitely do more with certain cards in your deck than your opponents can, but giving your opponents more power, like for example, you're copying draw, or you're copying I don't know, damage dealing spell or whatever. Yeah, it's just, I don't like giving my opponents that much power, and you can't even choose, right? What would be better here is if you could choose, like, okay, I don't want this super strong spell to be copied for you guys, but I can copy this strong spell which synergizes only with my deck, and then that would be great. So therefore, it's not as good. It's an okay card so far. Whenever you copy a spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on 12th Doctor. That's okay. It synergizes, yes, but it's an okay card. Then we get the Fugitive Doctor, another Time Lord Doctor. It's a 4/4 that costs 5. It's Gruel, and when it enters the battlefield, you get to investigate again for the small synergies in the deck. There is this other theme in the deck. Again, Jack of all trades, King of none. When the Fugitive Doctor attacks, you may sacrifice a clue. When you do, target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard gains flashback until the end of turn, and the flashback is 4 with Gruel. Itself synergizes because when it attacks, you may sacrifice a clue, then you can give flashback to a source. You're an instant until the end of turn, so that's good. It's good with the 13th Doctor. You can +1/+1 it. This is the only instance where I say, yeah, okay, the investigate makes sense. Just like Jenny Flint, right? So when you're interacting with those tokens, it makes sense. It's okay. It's good, actually. I like it, but yeah. Ooh, Meet Immortal. Now, this card is great in this deck. Meet Immortal is wonderful. It costs 5. It is Steamer. It's a human rogue, and it's a 3/3. And at the beginning of your combat on your turn, you put a choice of +1/+1, or First Strike, or Vigilance, or Menace counter on Meet Immortal. Counters remain on Meet Immortal to whenever it moves to any zone other than the player's hand or library. And you may cast Meet from graveyard by discarding 2 cards in addition to playing its other cost. Of course, if it's exiled by an opponent and you have no way of playing cards from exile, which there are, like you may play any cards from exile, blah blah blah, then this card can be played again. And yeah, as long as it doesn't go back into your hand or your deck, this is a great card. Really like it. Very good. Then we get Frostfare Lurefish. Is a 7/7 that costs 7. Creature fish. When it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 blue fish creature tokens and 2 tap treasure tokens, which is annoying. Why tap them? Who knows? Fish you control have haste and cannot be blocked by humans, and you can foretell it. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's good for the 7/7 for 7. That's already good. It gives you extra tokens, which is wonderful, and the fact that you can treasure token into something else, that's great. It's a bit annoying they come into play tap. Don't know why they made it that way, but whatever. And then yeah, it's add a cherry on top and gives haste to those fish that is just summoned, and they cannot be blocked by humans, which there are some decent decks out there that mainly play humans, but again, this is going to be a non-consequential thing, and the fact that it has foretell, that's the best part. So yeah, it synergizes, is good. If there are better foretell creatures that give you more, I would rather play those, but otherwise not bad. Then we have Lunark Hatchling. Oh, finally, now we start to see some of the bigger creatures. And so this is a 6/6 alien beast. Let's see, like, how many? I'll try and keep them here, and then I'll do a count. Lunar Hatchling is a 6/6 alien beast that costs 6. It is Simic and Flying Trample, basic land cycling 2. So you can discard this card and search your library for a basic land card, blah, 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 blah. And you can escape it, finally, yes. So this is self-synergist, right? So first you discard it, then you can escape it for 6, exiling a land you control, exile 5 other cards from the graveyard by playing 6, and you know, you do the ones that you really don't care about redoing again, and or you can't. That's great. Another great card that synergizes with the 13th Doctor. This is the kind of deck that I was envisioning for this. Like, you need to have great cards like this, great cards like this one, or smaller ones that pump other cards with the counters, and then it's very, very good. And of course, a lot of ramp, a lot of mana to be able to do all of that. Then we get Heaven Sent. This costs 2, so it is it, and it's an enchantment saga with 3 chapters. The first 2 you get to investigate again, and then for the third one, Heaven Sent deals 1 damage to each opponent. Then if an opponent has 0 less life, draw 7 cards, otherwise exile Heaven Sent, and you may cast it again this turn. Oh, okay, so this is a recursive enchantment. So if I read this correctly, you get to cast it again and again and again. So on the third turn, if you don't kill an opponent with it, or that, then you get to do that and constantly investigate. Now, this is going to be great with token decks that care about investigating. I can foresee this being a staple in those. But in here, again, the outlets of investigating are really annoying because, yeah, not synergistic to what the commander wants to do. There are very few there are, and you have to go fetch them, and it's a whole other thing. So this is a no for me. Then we get Last Night Together. Also because, like, in the end, the clue is about drawing, right? So the investigation is about drawing it. There are better in blue ways to draw. Last Night Together, it's a sorcery that costs 5 Gruel, and choose 2 target creature and untap them. Put 2+1/+1 counter on each of them. They gain Vigilance, Indestructible, and Haste until the end of turn. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase. Only the chosen creatures can attack during that combat phase. You get to attack with 2 creatures again. So that's all it's all is doing. It's buffing them. It's giving them a lot, like Vigilance, Indestructible, Haste until the end of turn. So it's limited. Like, you get 2 creatures, you buff them until the end of turn, you get to attack again, and they are untapped. I think it's a good card with the synergy that I really wanted to see of the Doctor, which is the counters. Next up, we have River Song's Diary. Costs 3 generic. It's an artifact, has imprint. Whenever a player casts an instant sorcery spell from their hand, exile it instead of putting it to graveyard as it resolves. So whenever a player, it can be any player for any spell. It seems that there's no limit at the moment. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more cards exiled under River Song's Diary, choose one of them at random. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. That's a really strong card. I really like this, and it really synergizes with the 13th Doctor. It can be any player, any instant or sorcery spell that they cast from hand. That is just great. Like, this is a very good artifact. I really love that, especially in this deck. Then we get the Confession Dial. Another artifact, costs 3 generic. When it enters the battlefield, you get to surveil 3. Again, you surveil, you put into graveyard, so great for those escape cards, which we don't have a lot of. And then you tap it. Target legendary creature in your graveyard gains escape until the end of turn. Yeah, it's a creature at least. Now you can do that to that. And the escape cost is equal to its mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. Not bad. It's at least allowing you to give those escape costs that I was looking at. It's good. I would keep it absolutely. And this deck necessitates more ways to do that and not just hinge upon the artifact. Okay, next up we have Clara Oswald, and this is colorless. So it's a 2/6 human advisor. It costs 6. It's an impossible girl. If Clara Oswald is your commander, choose a color before the game begins, and Clara Oswald is of the chosen color. Then if a triggered ability of a Doctor you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time, and it's a Doctor's companion. Yeah, okay, cool. Need mana to ramp. We have no way of doing that except for like maybe a couple of spells out of 99 decks. It's okay. It's a 2/6 for 6 that triggers something of the 13th Doctor. Now, if this was costing like 4, or hell, even 2, and make it a 2/1 or a 1/1, this would be a much better card to help get you the 13th Doctor to do more of what he wants to do. And then this would be the card to tutor right away if you're using some means to tutor. Otherwise, it's an okay card. It's really expensive for what it's trying to do. It does synergize with the Doctors though. Next off, we have Chaos Warp, of course. Costs 3. It's an instant. It's red. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library, then reveals the top card of the library. If if it's a permanent card, they put it into the battlefield. I like this a lot. It does not synergize with the 13th Doctor because it is put it into the battlefield, so it's not cast, so that's a big difference. It's okay, you can target yourself, something small, and then you put it into battlefield, but again, you only have like 2 huge creatures there, and this is more of a, hey, you have some really big creatures, you can do it yourself, and then this is a greater payout. So in a current status of the deck, not so great. Curse Mirror costs 3, it's an artifact and it's red. You tap to add 1 red, and when it enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn, except it has haste. So if you can find ways to replay this, it's a continuous clone, but if you can't, then it's just for 1 turn it becomes a clone, and then it just is a very expensive mana rock. So it's okay, there are better things to do, and I'd be better. Oh, maybe it's the first set that has it foil, because you can get them foil in the collector boosters, but I haven't seen Carpet of Flowers since it was a saga. That was a long time ago. So Carpet of Flowers is an enchantment that is green, costs 1 green at the beginning of each all of your main phases. So you have 2 main phases. If you haven't added mana with this ability this turn, you may add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of islands target opponent control. So this is what I was getting at when I was saying, hey, we need ways to actually ramp. Absolutely great. There are a lot of decks that play islands. Now, if you are in a pod, you know, a table where there are only non-island decks, then you're out of luck. But most of the times, at least a couple of islands you can find around the table. It's a great card. I love it. I really like it, and it's a great card. Then we start to see some of the lands. Dreamroot Cascade. So this is the one that unless you control 2 or more lands, it comes into play tapped. So it's decent. Temple of Misery, of course. Divine Glimmer Snarl, another one of the snarls. And we got the Waterlogged Grove. Great card. I love the art in this one, and it's good to see them back. Desolate Lighthouse, which is tap to add 1 generic, and then for is it +1 generic, you tap and draw a card, discard a card, effectively looting, and that's really good. Don't know that it plays too much into this deck. It's good if you are playing with a lot of graveyard interaction, but in this current deck there is not so much. Escape and Flashback. So then we get Rockfall Vale. Okay, another one of the 2 or more lands. Very nice. Rootbound Crag. Okay, hello sweetie. Okay, that's nice. That's a very nice way to reprint it. I like it. I'm happy with these lands being reprinted, by the way. Very good. Temple of Abandon. So Cinderglade, a great reprint. I like it. It does hinge upon the fact that you need basic lands, so if you play too many of those, it's not really great, but if you don't play to those, I mean. Then we get Shelter Thicket. It's an okay land. Then another temple, the Epiphany one. Frostboil Snarl, of course. Storm Carved Coast, another decent land. Fiery Islet, wonderful card to have reprinted here. I think the mana bases are much better for these decks, significantly much better than usual. I think it's missing all of these shock lands, and then you'd have perfect mana bases. Then we have the Game Trail. Okay, another one of those reveal cards. Then we got the Exotic Orchard. Oh, Galfrey Council Chamber. This is a legendary land. Galfrey is the home planet of the Time Lords, so all the doctors, that's where they come from. And well, there's only 1 doctor, so realistically with different iterations, but anyway, that's what I mean. All the Time Lords are coming from there. And when it enters the battlefield, you surveil 1. Great synergy with the 13th Doctor if you have Escape or other Flashback, and then you tap down 1 generic and tap, add 1 mana of any color, spend this only to cast a Time Lord or alien spell or activate an ability of a Time Lord or an alien. It's okay. Let's see. There are not that many Time Lords and that many Doctors. There are some aliens, but I don't know how good this is. So realistically, this only enables 2 or 3 cards in your deck. So it's not great. It's not bad, but it's not great. You need a lot more aliens or Time Lords in your deck to be able to do that. Then we get Farseek. Classic. Search your library for a Plains, Island, Swamp, or Mountain card. Put it into the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Again, and you don't cast lands. Beast Within, of course. Destroy target permanent, becomes a 3/3 green beast in its stead. Now, good spot removal. Finally, some spot removal. We have not seen a lot. Actually, we've seen some damage dealing ones, but not a lot of spot removal. So yeah, Growth Spiral, another great card to ramp. So this is, now I can start seeing how you ramp. You do have the Farseeks, you do have the Cultivate, the Growth Spiral as well. So yeah, okay, I'll give them that. They're starting to go towards that now. Then we have the Talisman of Curiosity, very wonderful artifact. Talisman of Impulse, wonderful. Rock's Passage, I always like this little card. It's great. It allows you to protect some creatures that want to attack every time. So I really like this card. And then we get the Frontier Bivok and meh, it's a Triumph that's garbage. Reliquary Tower, always wonderful. You don't have a lot of draw effects though, so don't know that it makes a lot of sense. Mirrored Landscape, Temple of the False Gods, Path of Ancestry, all classic cards. Commander Tower, of course, with a different art because of the 13th Doctor. Ominous Cemetery sees a return, and then you get 4 islands, 3 mountains, and 4 forests. So let's wrap this up and let's try and have a look at the deck as a whole. As I said, this is unfortunately yet another occasion where the deck is a bit disjointed. The deck is trying to do mainly a few things at once. The main thing that it would love to do is cast a lot of spells because of your commander. Cast a lot of spells from outside of your hand. That allows you to put +1/+1 counters on your creatures, right? And then creatures with +1/+1 counters, you'd want to have creatures that when they put +1/+1 counters, they do more of that. Or you can put more +1/+1 counters on more creatures, or something happens. You don't get a lot of that. Therefore, you're hoping to at least the creature count be in the stronger part, in the foretell and the escape. You don't have a lot of strong creatures either. You have like maybe 2 or 3 that realistically really are broken, that are on the foretell side, right? Because that's about it. Like that's, yeah, okay, this can be placed there, maybe. And Medium Mortal really is great, and it can become big. So that's it. Those are the cards. But realistically, Medium Mortal is just an overall great synergy with the 13th Doctor, and that's about it. So other than that, it's trying to do something with tokens. Again, clues. I don't care about that. There are so many foretell cards. You should have done more, I believe. And when you built this precon to have those foretell cards, to have those escape cards, they're insanely strong cards. And on top of that, I would have appreciated maybe 1 or 2 more ways to get treasure tokens to then play those insanely strong cards out from the escape, because some escape costs can be really expensive. And coming up in the next expansion, there's the whole, I think, Discovery, if I'm not mistaken, in the Lost Caverns of Ixalan as well, that's going to play from the graveyard, and some of those costs can be expensive. So that's kind of lacking. Now, what does it do well? It has some decent ramp in the spells of getting basic lands. So this means that you're gonna be, with a 3-color deck, you're gonna be forced to play some basic lands to ramp into it, right? So if you're playing these spells, you must have them. And of course, if it's just like this, Growth Spiral, you may put any land card, that's great. But if you're talking about Farseek and other like Cultivate, then absolutely you must. It's doing great on some of the mana rocks, because you have, of course, the Soul Ring, the Arcane Signet, the Sonic Screwdriver, and then the 2 Talismans, and that's it. I don't count the Cursed Mirror as a good rock. The mana base is definitely much better, a step or even 2 above, like I said in the previous deck, of the usual mana bases that you get with precon, so I'm gonna give him great for that. But again, this is all about the commander and getting the commander to do its thing, and you need creatures with counters. You want to have as many counters as possible, and for that reason, it just doesn't seem like it's done that as well as it could have. So therefore, I think overall, and of course, there are great synergy shamans and all that, so there is some power there. But just like the previous deck, I think this deck is jack of all trades, king of none, and there's a lot of potential here that you could unlock when upgrading, but there's just not enough straight out of the box. So I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10, just like the previous deck. It does have a bit more synergy than the previous deck, but it's still, because the commander is not as strong, like it's only 1 counter to 1 creature, and I get it. If you have like to all creatures, it'd be insane, but as I said, like put it to 2 creatures then, or make more synergies in between the other creatures. If you had done that, then this would definitely be a 6.5 or even a 7. And then, well, depending on what creatures you put inside and all the other cards that can fit flashback, escape, foretell, then you would have a very, very, very different deck. But maybe we'll leave this up to the upgrade part if we get to upgrading these decks eventually. But that's it from us, from Scotty and I hope you've enjoyed our extremely long-winded reviews, and we always go in depth, and I hope you found some of of my criticisms and some of my ideas interesting. If you did, make sure to thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, as it does help small channels like ours a lot. And yeah, let us know in the comments down below what you think about these decks. I do read and reply to every one of them. And I think that's it for this video. We'll leave you on that note. I hope to see you on the next one. We wish you a lovely day, a blessed day. Be good, be kind, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!